Deadpool and Wolverine is a worldwide smash hit beyond the industry's wildest expectations and a certified crowd pleaser to boot. It was single-handedly restoring faith in the MCU, right up until Marvel screwed it all up by leaving both Deadpool and Wolverine hanging at their Comic-Con presentation, instead puzzling fans worldwide by bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Dr. Doom.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've got Marvel whiplash. What are you doing, Feige?
That whiplash is gonna get worse, because apparently there's some weird to-be-disclosed twist in the works here, one which would indicate that Marvel has indeed learned nothing. Let's dive in. This video is sponsored by Epoch Studios. If a sensible entertainment company that respected its own audience had a smash hit like Deadpool and Wolverine opening in theaters the same weekend as they had a big Hall H presentation at Comic-Con, you'd think they'd want to leverage that box office hype and success into enthusiasm for their flailing cinematic universe by at the very least letting the world know that Deadpool and Wolverine will be back, and very soon. Alas, Marvel did nothing of the sort, and most likely because they had very little to do with the movie. Sure, it was billed as a Kevin Feige production in the opening credits, but that was a formality. In reality, it was a Ryan Reynolds production, greenlit by Bob Chapek against the wishes of Kevin Feige. As such, Marvel allowed Ryan Reynolds a separate Comic-Con panel praising his movie, but even there, no more promises of more appearances from what are arguably right now the anchor beings of the MCU was delivered. And that may very well be because however successful it was, Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't represent what Team Kevin Feige wants to do. If you need a reminder of what that might be, everything from WandaVision to Quantumania to She-Hulk to The Marvels to Secret Invasion to the upcoming Agatha All Along is representative of what Team Kevin Feige wants to do, and Deadpool and Wolverine was obviously not consistent with that. So, in a move reminiscent of what Star Trek Supremo Alex Kurtzman did following the success of Picard Season 3, the one season he had nothing to do with, Marvel right now seems content to memoryhold Deadpool and Wolverine as a one-off, and carry on like they did before. Case in point, in the main Marvel Comic-Con panel, they doubled down on their own troubled productions, and on the whole multiverse with all of its implications, even after Deadpool had roasted the entire concept and Marvel's execution of it to thunderous applause from audiences worldwide. Team Kevin Feige first lauded their own Captain America 4 as the future of the MCU, which is a risky move, considering that the production is more troubled than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and has gone through no less than 3 rounds of reshoots so extensive that they pretty much remade the entire movie several times over. And the final release version still comes from the exact same brain thrust that screwed up the earlier versions, and that also gave us Quantumania, The Marvels, and Secret Invasion. We're just supposed to trust that now they have things figured out, even though they clearly didn't before. Next up is Thunderbolts, Marvel's answer to DC's Suicide Squad, featuring a roster of characters the audience never responded to in earlier movies and Disney Plus series. Yet audiences are expected to flock to their movie.
So who do you think would be the anchor being of 616, the universe you're in?
616? I mean Universe 616?
Universe 616.
Yeah, I'm out of my orbit.
Perfect.
And then, of course, came the announcement of the movie replacing that other Team Feige screw-up, Avengers the Kang Dynasty, now replaced with Avengers Doomsday, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. as the MCU's anchor being, only in the guise of Dr. Doom. Fans may have cheered in the audience during the event, because that was Robert Downey Jr. and all, but if we're honest, fans want him back specifically as Tony Stark, not anyone else. This is like bringing William Shatner back to Star Trek, only as Khan instead of Kirk. Even Grace Randolph, our favorite insight into the Hollywood mindset, was less than impressed, and even feels the timing of this announcement damaged Deadpool and Wolverine.
So the studio delivered the $200 million plus opening for Deadpool and Wolverine that had seemed like a pie-in-the-sky projection. Remember, we were like, stop over-projecting, but they didn't. But then, in many ways, Marvel sucked all the air out of the room, out of the victory, with the shocking and confusing announcement last night that Robert Downey Jr. is back as Dr. Doom. Robert Downey Jr. He just can't stand to see anybody else be the star of the MCU. He did it with Chris Evans, and he's doing it again with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Man, should Kevin Feige have waited to reveal the new plans for the Avengers movies until D23 in about 2 weeks to give Deadpool and Wolverine a little time to breathe? I mean, talk about cutting a movie off at the knees. I think that prior to the Hall H announcements, I would have expected a Deadpool and Wolverine second weekend drop to have a 5 in front of it, maybe even a 4. But now I'm concerned that it could have a 6 in front of it. Not that the movie still couldn't reach $1 billion, but I really do think that someone really turned the lights on the party here. It's weird.
Time will tell what happens to that second weekend drop. But beyond that, Grace argues that Deadpool and Wolverine restored faith in the MCU, only for Team Feige to show that they've learned nothing and are still doubling down on their own past failures.
I think before Saturday night's panel, a lot of us were ready to say that Marvel was back, unequivocally, and that they still had it. But again, come Sunday, after the panel, I truly believe that a lot of the success of Deadpool and Wolverine clearly belongs to Ryan Reynolds. Clearly it was him. And that Feige continues to take really big risks, right? Robert Downey Jr. is Doom, a highly stylized Fantastic Four. We're going to talk about Fly Me to the Moon in a few moments. And continues to fracture the MCU into multiple different directions, instead of building a specific single direction like he once did that everybody could clearly get behind together. Very DC. We've talked about fracturing the audience. I think there's clearly going to be a camp that's like pro Robert Downey Jr. is Doom and very much against it. You can already seeing that division taking place. It's a deep division. And why do that? I think you should have just had like some bitchin' casting as Doom and get everybody excited.
Grace also made a great point about how much audiences trust Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, in sharp contrast to how little audiences trust Kevin Feige with Marvel at large.
We also, fascinatingly, witnessed a shift in spoiler culture, where for the first time in a while, the majority of fans did not want to know everything going into the movie. Usually it's tell me everything. That's what it was like for Spider-Man No Way Home. But here people were like, I don't want to hear until I go in to see the movie myself. People blocked words on social media, and in some cases, you guys totally stayed off. And you guys, many of you felt that your hard work paid off, improving your theatrical experience. However, again, after the Marvel Hall H panel, it seems spoiler culture has gone right back to where it once was. I mean, when we trust Marvel, we want to let them cook. But when that confidence is shaken, we want to poke our heads into the kitchen.
Speaking of spoilers, there may be a twist though, as first revealed by WDW Pro, and then later further developed by That Park Place, as well as Script Doctor in a live stream of ours. All of which boils down to that there's a strong possibility that Dr. Doom is a separate character played by a separate actor, but Doom has possessed the mind of Tony Stark, Freaky Friday and infamous Iron Man style, all of which, in some needlessly convoluted way, will result in the Tony Stark we know from the earlier movies being brought back from the dead, as opposed to a multiversal variant, which technically Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine is, even though the audience had no issue accepting him as the real deal. So, as for this whole Doom ordeal, what's that quote?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
However, following the release of Captain America 4 and the Thunderbolts, I think Marvel are going to want to bring back Deadpool and Wolverine sooner rather than later, because right now, they are the only two anchor beings the MCU has got that the audience have voted for with their wallets, and there can be no more ringing endorsement than that. Speaking of, remember last year when all of Hollywood and the entire industry trade was dead set against The Sound of Freedom, claiming it was all based on right-wing conspiracy theories? In all my years covering entertainment, I have never seen anything quite like that. We covered it extensively at the time. Videos are linked to in the description if you want to check them out. But what matters is that instead of listening to the Hollywood trade and pundits, the audience went to see it, and went back to see it again with their friends, making The Sound of Freedom one of the biggest hits of last year, in the process spreading awareness of an all too real problem, as well as the values needed to combat it. Another movie based on those same values is out this year, in fact this weekend even, and that would be The Fighting Squad from Epoch Studios. The Fighting Squad is a powerful true story of Christians who, in the face of death in a third world prison, transform the entire camp through their unshakable faith. This film is not just entertainment, it's a profound witness to the strength of faith and the potential for redemption. The film stars James Paddington, Kevin Sorbo, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Madeline Anderson, and it's released nationwide this weekend from August 2nd onwards. Find watch times in the link in the description below and go check it out. With that, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.